We were somewhere deep in the Indian Ocean, aboard the Aurora Queen, heading home from Singapore. The night was silver, calm, endless. Moonlight painted a path across the water. I was the only passenger on board, and the first mate, Captain Hale, was one of those men you could trust your life with, a man of logic, courage, and stories. But that night, he told me one story I'll never forget, because now I know it was true.
It happened years ago when I commanded a whaling ship called the Celeste. We had been at sea for almost 3 years and were finally headed home with our cargo full of oil, bones, and ambergris. Everything was perfect. The wind, the water, the money waiting back home. I remember that night clearly. The air was still, the ocean was calm, and I was sitting in my cabin finishing the day's charts when it began. Our ship's dog, Bosun, began to howl. A long, low cry, like something deep in his chest had broken. Then I heard footsteps. Someone was coming down the companion stairs. I looked up, expecting my mate, but what I saw froze me. A man stood there, pale, drenched, eyes sunken deep into his skull. He looked around the cabin like he was searching for something. Then his gaze fell on the rolled-up map on my table. He stared at it, disappointment flashing across his face, and before I could move, he vanished, just disappeared. I told myself it was a dream. Too much smoke, too much rum, anything to make sense of what I saw. But the next night, same time, same place, he came again. And this time, I was sober, awake, terrified. He appeared exactly the same, wet, hollow, desperate, and then vanished again. By the third night, I couldn't take it anymore. I called my first officer, Mr. Warren, to sit with me. We both waited in silence. The map lay open on the table. Then it began. Bosun's howl, the sound of wet boots on wood, and that same pale man appeared. Only this time, his face changed when he saw the open map. He stepped closer, trembling, and placed one long, bony finger on it. When he lifted his hand, there was a single drop of blood, right on latitude 37 degrees north, longitude 63 west. I don't know why, but I changed our course. At dawn, the lookout shouted, "Boat on the horizon!" We found a small lifeboat drifting among the waves. 3 men were dead, 1 was barely alive. When we pulled him aboard, my blood ran cold. It was the same man, the same hollow eyes, the same face I'd seen in my cabin 3 nights in a row. Days later, when he recovered, he told me his ship, the Promise, had caught fire. They'd escaped in boats, but hunger and thirst took everyone one by one. Just before he lost consciousness, he said he saw a ship. He tried to reach it 3 times, and the last time, he felt he finally had. He smiled meekly, picked up my pencil, and said, "I must have left a drop of blood there. I cut my finger." He pointed to the same spot on the map. I looked down. It was the exact same mark, the same drop of blood left by his ghost before he was ever saved. Sometimes the soul doesn't wait for the body to die. Sometimes it goes ahead to ask for help. When you live alone long enough,
silence starts to sound different. It isn't peace anymore. It's presence. It happened after I moved into my apartment near Clifton. One small room, pale yellow walls, and a single window that faced another building's shadow. Nothing about the place was haunted, at least not yet. I moved in after a breakup. 3 years, gone just like that. I told myself I needed quiet, time to heal, but the silence had other plans.
It was my third night. The city outside was asleep. I lay scrolling on my phone, half awake, when I heard it. Breathing. Slow, steady, just beside me. I froze. I didn't even blink, but the sound kept going. When I turned the flashlight on, no one was there. Just the empty bed and an impression like someone heavy had been sitting beside me. I laughed it off. Maybe stress, maybe grief. But the next night, it returned. Light bulb buzz, faint city horns outside, phone unlock sound. 2:43 a.m., the same time again. This time, I didn't move. I just stared into my window, the glass catching the light from my phone. And in that reflection, a shape, black, still, sitting right next to me. I blinked, and it was gone, but the blanket had shifted, like someone had just stood up and walked away. I sat awake until sunrise. The next night, I set my phone to record while I slept. Not because I believed in ghosts, I just needed proof that I wasn't losing my mind. Morning came, and when I played the video, my hands went cold. At exactly 2:43 a.m., the blanket sank, slowly, like someone invisible had sat down. No wind, no movement, just that dip and stillness. I sent the clip to my friend Sarah. She laughed at first, said it was camera compression or a glitch. But when she called me back that night, her voice was shaking. She said, "When you sent me that clip, did you notice the window behind you?" I said no. "What about it?" And she whispered, "Your reflection was smiling." Soft wind, electric hum, glass creaking slightly. I stood in front of the same window that night. The curtains moved slightly. The city lights blinked in the distance. And there I was, my own reflection. Only it wasn't moving like me. When I tilted my head, it stayed still. When I blinked, it didn't. And then it smiled. I stepped back, heart pounding, tears welling. That night, I slept with the lights on. But around 2:43, the bed sank again. Days passed. I ignored it, pretended to live normally. Until one night, I woke up crying, a dream I couldn't remember. And then a whisper right next to me, "Don't cry." It was so soft, so familiar, that for a second, I forgot to be afraid. Then I felt it, my hand lifted gently in midair. Cold fingers wrapped around mine. And for that one moment, I didn't feel alone. The next morning, I went through my old things. Letters, pictures, pieces of a life I'd tried to forget. And there he was. Him, my ex, smiling in front of the same apartment, the same curtains, the same window. That's when I remembered. This used to be his place. Before he died, car crash, last year. The police report said 2:43 a.m. That evening, I checked the tenant record. He had rented this apartment 3 years ago. Same address, same room. The landlord said quietly, "Strange you moved in here. He used to talk about you." I went home and sat on the bed. This time, I didn't wait. At 2:43, I whispered, "If it's you, please stop." The air grew cold. The blanket moved slightly, and I heard it again. I never left. The next morning, I opened the window. For the first time in months, I let the light in. I placed his photo on the windowsill and said, "You can rest now." The room felt lighter, peaceful. But when I looked at the bed, 2 faint impressions were still there, side by side, like someone had been sitting beside me one last time. Fade into soft heartbeat, soft whisper. People think ghosts stay because of anger or unfinished business, but sometimes they stay because of love. Maybe the real haunting is when you can't let go.